Hi, so in the last episode we used the automatic unwrapping tool, and I said that that's probably not the best way of doing it, and it certainly isn't if you want to make a good job of it, or if you want to use photographic textures or optimize it in any way. So I'm going to show you the best way of doing it properly, making it much more pleasant to use. Please have a go at the unwrapping the table video, because that's pretty much a prerequisite for this video. So the way this works is we're going to split up our geometry and make our own map. So let's hide, can we hide the let's hide the ears and the eyes and the eyebrows, the hair, the head, the nose. Let's even hide the other bits. So yeah, this bit here, yeah, we'll hide that. The plane, I need to name these parts. So we're just left with the body essentially. We have that bit there as well. Yeah, that's part of the body. Yeah, so what we're going to do, I'm going to do probably the waistcoat first and then the arm. So the way this works is we select an area of what we want, and then we use the unwrap, and then it projects it onto here. Doing it this way, we can select the areas we want. Now, if I try to do all of this waistcoat, let me just say I go all the way around here and just select. If I select bits like this, it's going to find it hard to map that onto on a flat surface. I mean, we could try and see what happens. So if I select all this waistcoat, I could have probably done this a much faster way, but yeah, let me just use a circle select. There we go. So let's get all the waistcoat, yeah, all the way down here. There we go. There's the waistcoat. Oh, no, we don't want that. Let's just do that for now. I'll not worry about the edges for right now, but I would probably put them on. We could UV unwrap, and there's an unwrap of the waistcoat, and I believe we can click on here and click display stretch. I'm just taking off the other selection. So here we can see there is some degree of stretching, and that's because if you imagine this made of a sheet of paper, you can't flatten this because it's three-dimensional and it just wouldn't work. So we'd have to do something to it to flatten it out. So imagine you're actually cutting this out of a piece of cloth. How could you do it? One good way of doing it might be, see this little line here, if we imagine cutting that with a pair of scissors, then the rest of it would probably open up and it would be fine. So let's do that. Let's go into edge mode, click on here, and then you click edge, mark seam. So what that happens now is, unfortunately, I've got to select it all again. Edge, mark, seam. So let me go into face mode and C for circle select. And let me just reselect all this. It's a bit of a pain having to do that, but there's no other way. Not really, not how I've made the model. And then let's circle select all this, select that and that, press enter. So we've got it all selected again, but now I've got to cut. So when I unwrap it, UV unwrap, it will unwrap it with much less distortion, because now it's almost folded it out into one piece, and I'd be perfectly happy with that, to be honest. So I'm going to leave that piece as done. And what I like to do, if I were doing it this way, we're going to apply the unwrap on everything, but I would normally press S to scale a little bit, because it's taking up a lot of space, and I would normally just put it on the outside to say that, yeah, I've done that piece, and then I'll arrange them on here later. So let's have a look at this arm, and it's going to be the same deal with the arm, and I can select, whoops, I can select an edge loop with the arm, so use Alt, oops, it's not going to let me do this, oh, there we go, select an edge loop, and you can see previously they were all over the place, those polygons, but now I think it's, is it Control Plus to increase the selection, Control Plus on your number pad. So we've got the whole of the arm was selected. That were good, because I just managed to get it right in the middle. So I've selected the whole arm, and again, if I go to UV Unwrap, it's impossible to unwrap that, because it's literally, well, you can see it's a cylinder effectively. So I guess the sensible thing to do would be to do the same thing, to cut a seam in here, there, and then go to edge, mark seam, and then I'll do the same thing. So hopefully I can get this the same. If I go to face mode and click Alt, and then if I do Control Plus on the number pad, hopefully the number of polygons line up. Yeah, they do. And now if I do UV Unwrap, it will unwrap it fairly well. It's not perfect, but it's not bad, and I would be happy enough with that. And that'll be the arm. I could do another seam on the top to make it even better, but to be honest, I think that's fine. So we'll scale that down, G to move it out of the way. So that's the arm done. So we need some other parts, so let's have a look. Let's do the legs. So I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do pretty much the same strategy with the leg, to be honest. I'm going to cut a hole, well, a seam down the middle of the leg here, and apply that. UV face, UV edge, mark seam. The other thing I want to do, and I didn't do it on there, is when I do what I'm going to do is I'm going to unwrap the whole of the character at once to preserve the size. So ideally I want to select that edge loop there and do edge, mark seam, so that it literally will only do that part. And then if I want to cut this leg up here, I can go around this seam here. Oops, let's get rid of that. I'll just do a bit at a time. Edge, mark seam, like I'm actually cutting this one piece out all the way around. Now I'm not going to do all of this model on camera because it's going to take me a while, but I'm going to do enough of it to give you the idea. So that's the whole leg piece. I've gone all the way around the top and all the way around the bottom, so edge, mark seam, and I've cut that. So that should allow me to click somewhere in the middle, select an edge loop, Control Plus to select. Can I do one more? No. Control minus to deselect. It's going over onto the next bit, so I need to do that bit manually, and I need to do these bits manually as well. Now I am going to get some distortion on these bottom bits because they're folded in. However, they're barely visible, so I'm not going to worry about that. I could obviously do a separate loop for them, but I'm not going to go crazy. I think that will be sufficient. So UV unwrap, and there's the leg. So here's the distortion I was talking about, and that's the front of the leg. And the seam's on the inside. So we'll scale that down and move that over there. That's done. And if we do want to select the whole thing, you can see the bits we've done and the bits we haven't done. If I press A, so we've done that. If I put linked, you can see we've done the waistcoat, we've done the leg, and we've done the arm. The only problem with the arm, I didn't mark the seam, so I do need to mark that seam, so I'll do it now. Won't affect the arm that I've done, but we're just splitting the character up into bits, and it is very, very much like a pattern that you will cut out of fabric to make some clothes, if you've ever done that. Some of you may not. So edge, mark seam. So that's separated like I've actually physically cut it. So we need to do the hand, which I'll probably do next. We've got the leg, we've got the jacket. I do need to select this edge loop here and mark that seam as well, because that's the seam between the jacket. Oh, I've just noticed that one there. Mark seam, edge, mark seam has not been done, so because we do need to cut that. That's looking okay. So I've got the arm, the jacket, the legs. We need to do the hand. So hand's a bit more complicated. I think the best way of doing the hand is to create a seam down here that literally runs the whole way around, like, and this is a bit similar to if you're doing casting, 3D modeling, 3D printing, that you would create, I'm just going to do a bit at a time so I don't lose it, mark seam, so I've got to get in here and do this one. I'll mark seam, edge, mark seam, and then I'm going to press period on my number key so I can rotate around there and then get that full stop, they call it in England. Mark seam, there we go, and I'm going to go all around the hand, and it's like the way you would prepare something for moulding or something, that you have to think about how it would come out of the mould, and it's a little bit similar in some regards. Trying to imagine how it would unfold onto a flat sheet. So I'm just literally trying to cut it in half. Now there is going to be some distortion, and it's always a trade-off between distortion and the ease of doing it, I guess. If we've got hundreds and hundreds of pieces and they're all perfectly flat, it's not going to make a lot of sense while we're texturing it. So it is a trade-off, and it's trying to find a good balance between how you want to do it and how accurately they are projected. So edge, mark seam. So sometimes it's about what makes sense. So now we've got the hand. I'm just wondering whether we need seams in here to like little cuts. I think we do. Edge, mark seam. I think that will help. We have got that. Yeah, it's not showing up very well, but we have done it. Yeah. So let's see if we can select a bit of this hand. So I'm going to try and select it by going into wireframe and using 3 for face select, B for border select. So that's selected most of it. So Z for solid mode, And then I'm probably just going to do Control plus to select another loop. And there we go. We've got the hand. Oh, we've got some of that selected. Let's deselect that. Okay. Right. There's the two halves of the hand. Let's go to UV Unwrap. And they're not too bad. Let's just deselect that. Oh. We've got a problem. So here, because I've put them cuts in, what's happened is they've folded flat and now they're overlapping each other. And that means if I paint on this finger, it will go onto that finger. So that's not going to work very well. There are a few ways around that. I could, one option would be to take those seams back out, which we could try. So that would be the first. Or we could put some extra loops in and do each finger separately. So what I mean by the extra loops is coming down here would actually do a whole loop all the way around like this. Yeah, so the thumb could come up here. So what I'm doing now, we've separated the thumb and we've separated this finger and we've separated this finger. So they're all now separate. So I'm just going to try that and mark seam. And again, this may be somewhat trial and error. So let me see if I can find an easy way to select this again. Control plus. That's not too bad, but I've got a lot of manual selecting to do again. Let's go to the circle select tool. Just give that a bit of a brush over. Whoops, I am undoing it. I've made a mess now. Let's go back into here. It's like playing a game where you've got it's like playing Cubert. Right, okay, let me just finish this selection off. There we go. I just want to check I've got everything. I haven't. I didn't think I would have. Circle select tool is very useful, but a bit annoying. So I think I have got, oh, see, definitely got everything now. Yes, it looks like I have, looking at that. Let me try unwrapping it now. Okay, so we've got more pieces, but I think that's okay. Let's shift that over there. Got the hand, got the legs. Right, shoes. We need to figure out how that might unwrap. So I'm thinking, I don't want to put a seam down the front. I think I'm going to carry this seam on here. I'm going to do a split seam here. If I can click on it. I'm going to do a seam there. So let's put that in. Edge, mark seam. So that's the seam for the shoe. And we've got that. I'm just wondering whether to do a front and a back. Might have to see how that works. So I'm going to do select the edge loop. I'm going to do a seam for the bottom. So mark seam. I'm going to see how it unwraps this shoe. I'm not convinced that it will be able to unwrap this part properly. So let's just select this bottom piece. Let me go to circle select. I haven't done this very well. And then Control plus, Control plus, Control plus. And then I'll just finish that bit off manually. getting my selection all messed up here. Ooh, get the foot in the way. That's it. We just have to try it, I think. It's hard trying to anticipate exactly what's going to happen. Let's do UV unwrap. Yeah, I think there's a lot of distortion here at the front. And even if I cut it, I think there's going to be some degree of distortion everywhere when I do that. I think I am going to end up having to have a seam in the middle. I think it's inevitable. I'm going to try putting a seam down here. Just trying to think how it may possibly unwrap. This may not work, but I'm going to try that. That bit's fairly flat all the way around, so that bit's okay. I'm going to try that. So UV edge mark seam. Let me see if I can just select this a better way. So go into front mode, go into wireframe, do face mode, B for body select. Let's see if we can select it a little bit better. That's got most of it. Z and 6 for solid mode. Oops, I don't want to undo that. Don't want to do that. I think that's most of it. Yeah. No. Okay, let's try that. UV unwrap. That's better. It's not perfect, but it's not bad at all. So I am happy with that. So we don't want to scale his feet. Look at that. Oh my God. Well, you might want that. That's pretty cool. Anyway, let's scale. Oops, I've done it again. Let's scale this and move it. Let's just stick it there. Right, we've got the shoe, we've got the leg, we've got the waistcoat, we've got the arm, we've got the hand. I just want to get the next bit done, and then we can unwrap the body as one thing, and then you can see how it's going to work. Now this bit of geometry is sort of separate, so I think we should do that bit separate. Has it got a back to it? It has, hasn't it? That's a bit annoying. Yeah, because it's got a back to it, that's going to be a bit annoying. I'm just wondering whether to not even texture that bit, because you'll never see that. I'm just wondering whether to... you see, if I unwrap it like this, if I do select that, if I unwrap it like that, it's going to make a real mess because it can't project it. The only way you can do this is to mark a seam there. So let's mark that seam, edge, mark seam, and then I really just want to select this, this and this, I think. And then UV unwrap, and that, I'm going to say that's done. We might have to do a little bit of fixing up later, and that would be quite small, that piece. So let's just stick it there. Let's just get the rest of this done. So I want to put a seam around here. So let's make sure, because I didn't do this earlier, make sure we've got a good seam around this waistcoat here, and we'll probably, yeah, I'll probably do the belt separate. So let's mark that edge, mark seam, and although we can't see it very well, I'm going to mark that seam as well. Mark seam. I wish I hadn't have modelled it that way, but there we go, I did. So that's that. Yeah, so we've marked the seam all the way around, edge, mark seam. That's done. Now this here is all one piece down here. And that will probably go fairly flat. We are going to get a bit of distortion, but this is all hidden anyway, so I'm not even worried about that. And then the belt, yeah, so one thing I do notice is I probably haven't got this inside seam marked where it's just this one polygon, and I probably do need to mark it, even though, because it's going to affect that bit. So edge, mark seam, and now, yeah, so imagine it going right under, because the belt's separate, and the belt is only 3 polygons, so it will unwrap fine. So if I just select those 3 pieces, unwrap, that's fine. So that does want to be quite small, probably smaller. And there's ways you could do this now. So if we've got all this, and we could project the other bits, one thing you can do is you can manually move all these pieces into position and lay them out. But while we've got it all selected with A, and because we've put all the seams in, we should be able to go to Unwrap, and it unwraps everything how we want it. Now this bit here, if we click on here, click off of it, yeah, that's that bit. We knew that bit's a little bit messed up, but I think it's fine. But everything else is not too bad on it, really. What's this? I thought I'd put a seam down the middle. Oh, there's this bit missing there, look. That should affect how it's unwrapped, because now it's fully cut. So if I press A and go to UV unwrap, see how it's unwrapped it differently. That's better. We've got a bit of distortion on this piece, but it's folding over. I'm not too worried about that. I think that will be fine. So yeah, in general, I think that's okay. So that's the body done. And what we'd do is I'm not going to do the rest. You can do the rest because it's the same process. We've done the hard bit. You would then add in the other parts, and now we can add this onto it and unwrap all of it in one go. So you'll mark your seams again on the head. You'll need some seams, maybe just one down the edge here, and that will be sufficient. And then you'll unwrap all of it together again. So I'm going to leave that to you, because I think we've done more than enough. So yeah, you'll just mark your seams, maybe one all the way around the edge here, and then UV unwrap, and it will unwrap all of it together. And obviously it's not worked on the head. Let me just very quickly show you what I mean. So let's say we had a loop cut there. We marked the seam there, and this may not be enough. We may need to do a little bit here, but that'll be better. UV unwrap, and it unwraps it all together at the same scale. So yeah, that's what you would do. And then you would unhide all the other bits, like the eyes, and you would add them in. And then you would unwrap, UV unwrap all of it, and now you can see we've got the eyes as well. And then UV unwrap. So we do that, and you may end up then having, this is where you may end up having to move things about. So give that a go, see if you can unwrap it. I might record myself doing the rest of it, and then you can watch it as an optional video. But this is the best way to unwrap it. And then when we come to paint it, and you could even put textures on then, when we come to paint it, it will be so much easier to paint, because we'll be able to paint on the 2D image as well as the 3D image. So yeah, I mean, that looks a lot better, doesn't it? So let's see how that goes. Okay, thank you.